Have you ever been betrayed so deeply that it changed who you are? I'm Trina Stewart, and I know what it's like to rebuild after betrayal, addiction, grief, and loss. This is Life's a Blog, where we have honest conversations about healing, finding yourself again, and learning how to move forward when life looks nothing like you thought it would. And because music has a way of saying what we sometimes can't, I share the songs that perfectly capture every step of the journey. Because every story has a song, and every song has a story. And life truly is a blog. Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you for listening on a sunny summer day. I don't know about you, my numbers have went down, so I think people are basking in the sun more than they're listening to podcasts. I had a horrible start to my July. I had a sore throat, and I passed it off as allergies time and time again. The first weekend, I was doing deliveries. I went to my daughter's place. I blamed it on the basement. I went over to a friend's and had a nap. I'm like, oh, I got to get rid of these allergies. And every night I'd go to bed, and every morning I'd wake up with a sore throat. Anyway, last week my son and grandson and daughter-in-law came, and I was in bed early because of the sore throat. Wake up again with the sore throat. And finally, before I started production, I decided to go and get it checked out. And I passed it off again as allergies to the doctor, but little did I know that I had a sinus infection and 2 ear infections. It wasn't even throat related. So now I'm on some pretty heavy antibiotics and some nose spray. Never did that before. And it's been a journey. So I have decided to stop making excuses for my health and starting to take action on my health a little bit more aggressively before I lose another minute of living, because I lost those 2 weeks. I lost fireflies. I lost having fun with friends. I've just been kind of walking in a deaf haze where everyone said, oh yeah, that's why you kept saying what last week. So yeah, it's been a real kick these last 2 weeks, and I plan to make the most of the remaining of my summer. So on we go to my topic today. Today's episode is about creating a happier version of yourself, not a fake version, because there's a lot of people that walk around living that fake version, and not the everything is fine version, where, again, there's a lot of people that walk around and pretend that everything is fine while they're dying inside. I don't want you to talk about the woman who pretends she is healed because she bought a new candle or posted a quote or found a new man and suddenly she is above it all. I mean the real version. The version of you that has been through things. The version of you that has been disappointed, betrayed, embarrassed, heartbroken, overlooked, exhausted, and maybe even a little hardened by life. The version of you that still wants more peace, more laughter, more adventure, more proof that your life is not over just because one chapter hurt. Happiness starts when you decide your energy is too valuable to keep spending it on things that are not building your life anymore. That includes old stories, old arguments, old versions of yourself, old relationships, old grief, old expectations, old dreams that did not turn out the way you thought they would. And the hardest one of all, the fantasy version of your past. Because sometimes we are not unhappy because our current life is terrible. Sometimes we are unhappy because we keep comparing it to the past that we have edited, softened, romanticized, and turned into something it never fully was. We remember the good parts, we forget the anxiety, we remember the laughter, we forget the loneliness. We remember the family photo, we forget what was happening behind it. We remember the person, we forget how small they made us feel. We remember the comfort, we forget the cost. And then we stand in our current life looking around at what is possible, and we cannot see it because nothing is there, because we're too busy staring backward. And I'm so, I've experienced that time and time again. Let's just put it that way. So today we're talking about how the fantasy version of your past keeps you from seeing what is possible now. We are talking about how to know whether it is you or the situation that needs to change. We are talking about why it is unfair to criticize where you are if you have not actually shown up there. We are talking about how long you should give a new situation before deciding it's not the right fit. We are talking about the 4 things that you may be doing that's keeping you stuck and unhappy. And about the signs that you're quietly quitting the life you are in. And we're also talking about luck, because happy people are not always luckier. A lot of the times, they are just participating more. They are putting themselves in the path of possibility. And maybe that is the first thing you need to do when you're unhappy and want your life to feel different. Not burn it all down, not run, not blame someone else, not deciding that you're doomed. Maybe the first thing you need to do is participate again. You know, there is something very sneaky about the past. It changes shape. When you're far enough away from something, your brain starts editing it. It takes the sharp edges off. It softens the parts that once made you cry. It puts a filter over the memory. Suddenly, something that was complicated starts looking simple. Something that hurt you starts looking romantic. And something that exhausted you starts looking like home. And that can be very dangerous, because when you are unhappy in the present, the past starts looking better than it was. You start thinking, maybe I had it better then. Maybe I should have stayed, or I should have tried harder. Maybe that version of my life was the best it was ever going to get. Maybe I ruined it. Maybe I'll never feel that way again. But here's the question. Are you missing the truth, or are you missing the fantasy? Because those are not the same thing. You can miss part of something and still know it was not good for you. You can miss someone and still know they hurt you. You can miss a house and still know you were lonely inside it. You can miss a season of life and still know you were surviving it. You can miss who you were before the hard thing happened and still understand that you cannot go back and become her again. And that is one of the hardest lessons of healing. Sometimes you're not grieving what you had. You're grieving what you hoped it would have become. That relationship or marriage, friendship, job, that family dynamic, that business plan, that younger version of yourself. The idea you had of how life was going to unfold. I was a planner. I wanted life to unfold according to my plans, and it didn't happen. And when you are grieving the imagined version, it can keep you stuck for a very long time, because imagined things do not have flaws. They do not disappoint you in real time. They do not leave the socks on the floor. They do not lie. They do not ignore you. They do not make you feel small. They do not come with bills, stress, conflict, or reality. The fantasy version is always easier to love because it does not have to prove itself. But your current life does. Your current life is right in front of you with laundry, deadlines, body aches, awkward beginnings, getting older, bank accounts, unanswered emails, lonely nights and days where you think, is this it? And so, of course, the polished version of the past can feel more appealing, but it's not fair to your life now. It's not fair to compare your present reality to a memory you've airbrushed. And I say that with compassion because I've done it. I think most of us have. You can go through something painful, and even when you know the truth, your mind can still wander back to the highlight reel. You remember the good day, the laughs, the vacation, the dinner, the moment they were kind, the moment things felt normal, the moment you felt loved. And you wonder if maybe you focused too much on the bad. And when you're tempted to romanticize the past, you ask yourself this, like, what am I leaving out? What was I tolerating then that I would not tolerate now? What did that version of my life require me to ignore? And who did I have to become to survive it? And those questions matter because nostalgia can be beautiful, but it also can be a beautiful liar. And if you're constantly looking backwards, you cannot see what is trying to meet you now. That new friendship, a new routine, a new version of a home, a new dream, a new opportunity, a new you. And this is where lived comes in for me. It is not about sitting around wishing life had been safer or easier. It's about wanting to experience life fully. The highs, the risks, the bruises, the beauty, the whole messy thing. And that's where everything shifts. At some point, you have to stop asking, why did my life not turn out the way I thought? And start asking, what can I do with the life I still have? That question can change everything. And I'm actually proof of it. I left a marriage, thought it was behind me. A lot of deaths happened, including him. I hooked up with someone that was in an abusive relationship, hugely attached. I left that relationship and I grieved it and I fantasized it. Every time we broke up, I used the fantasy version, not the reality version. And the moment I decided I got to move forward with this is the moment that my business started to thrive. And I'm so proud of myself because my business is thriving. It is my new boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever you want to call it. I have turned my fantasizing the past into fantasizing my future, and things are actually changing for me, and I'm so excited. And when you're unhappy, one of the hardest things to figure out is whether the problem is you or the situation. And I do not mean you as in you are the problem in some shame-filled way. I mean, is the situation genuinely wrong for you? Or have you stopped showing up in it? Because there's a difference. Sometimes the job is wrong or the relationship. The friendship could be one-sided. Sometimes the place you live is just not your place. Sometimes the room does not fit who you're becoming. Sometimes you're trying to bloom in soil that was never meant to hold you. And when that is true, no amount of positive thinking is going to fix it. You cannot gratitude journey your way out of a situation that's draining your soul. You cannot mindset your way through disrespect or abuse. You cannot look on the bright side of something that keeps making you smaller. Sometimes the situation needs to change. But sometimes this is where we have to be honest. Sometimes we are unhappy because we have stopped participating. We stop making effort. We stop being curious. We stop introducing ourselves. We stop trying new things. We stop taking care of our space or inviting people in it. We stop doing the small things that once made us feel alive. And then we look around and say, this life is boring. This place has nothing for me. Nothing good ever happens. But nothing good can happen if we are emotionally unavailable to our own life. The line hits, doesn't it? Emotionally unavailable to your own life. Because we talk a lot about people being emotionally unavailable in relationships. But can we be that way in our own lives too? Can we be physically present but mentally checked out? Living in a house but not making it a home? Working a job but not bringing ideas anymore? Being in the relationship but not really connecting? Living in the community but never going anywhere? Wanting friendship but never reaching out? Wanting change but doing nothing differently? And that is where you have to ask yourselves, have I actually given this a chance? Not a passive chance. Not a, I waited for it to impress me. A real honest chance. You have to ask yourself, have I shown up, participated? Have I tried to create joy in my life? Have I done anything differently? Have I given the situation enough of my real energy to know whether it is wrong for me? Because sometimes we judge a chapter before we even entered it. We stand in the doorway with our arms crossed, already comparing it to what we lost. And then we wonder why it does not feel like home. Because it's obvious new chapters are awkward. Whether it's a new job, new town, new relationships, new routine, new friendships. Healing is awkward. Starting over is awkward. It doesn't always feel magical. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, boring, lonely before it starts to feel right. So how do you know? Here's the difference. If the situation is wrong for you, it will keep asking you to abandon yourself. If your energy is wrong, you may be abandoning the situation before it has a chance to show you what it could be. That is the difference. One steals your peace, the other needs your participation. And before you leave, quit, and run or declare something a failure, it is worth asking, have I actually shown up or have I only judged it from the sidelines? This magazine, oh my God. There has been at least 30 times in the last year and a half where I thought, this is it. I'm shutting it down. Can't do it. This is not for me. But it's always been my dream. I just think I had a lot of roadblocks in the way with a breakup and money and trying to find a home and trying to find peace, and that I just thought, okay, I may as well give this up too. But I didn't. And this is I wrote a goal in January 2025 of how much money I wanted to receive per month. And here we are, July 2026. And I finally reached that goal. Finally. I got the largest restaurant corporations in the area to buy into the magazine. I am so close to get the largest furniture store. I am so close to achieving so many people that I've aspired to acquire since the very beginning. And this is where I've devoted my life now. I do open my heart for other things. But right now I have to focus on my dreams, my passions, and stop abandoning things because they're hard, because they're difficult, because I've never done it before, because my little married life in Cambridge, Ontario looked so comfortable with my 2 kids, my house, and my husband. You know, the story that I fantasized about. That this one, every time I have a struggle, I just want to abandon it so quickly. And I will not do it because I've learned this situation needs my participation. So I want to say this gently but directly. It is unfair to criticize where you are if you have not fully shown up there. And I know that makes some people uncomfortable because when we are unhappy, we want validation. We want someone to say, yes, your life is hard. Yes, that place is boring. Yes, those people are so disappointing. And yes, everything is unfair for you. Poor you. And maybe some of that is true. But if we're being honest, there are times when we criticize situations we have not actually invested in. We say there's nothing to do here, but we never look for anything to do. We can say I have no friends, but we don't answer texts, accept the invitation, start the conversation. We can say I hate my job, but we have stopped learning, stopped contributing, stopped making connections, stopped looking for ways to grow. We say my life feels empty, but we're not filling it with anything. We say nothing good happens to me, but we're never in places where something good could happen. And I say this as someone who knows how easy it is to retreat. When life hurts you, your instinct can be to shrink. You protect yourself, stop hoping too loudly, stop expecting too much. You stop putting yourself in situations where you could be disappointed. You tell yourself you're just being realistic. But sometimes being realistic is just fear wearing sensible shoes. And sometimes we call it peace when it's actually avoidance. Sometimes we call it independence when it's actually isolation. And sometimes we call it standards when it's actually self-protection. And at the end of the day, sometimes we call it being tired when really we're just scared to try again. And I do not say that with judgment. I say it because I understand it. I get it. There are seasons where life knocks the wind out of you. The last 8-9 months has been just that for me. You lose people, you lose trust, you lose a version of your future, You lose confidence. You lose the old rhythm of your days. Before you know it, your world gets smaller and smaller. You go to work, you come home, you scroll, you doom scroll, then you overthink while you're doom scrolling, and you replay, you compare, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up and do it all over again. And then you wonder why you do not feel alive. But the truth is, aliveness requires participation. A happier life is not going to kick your door down when you're hiding from it. Sometimes you have to meet it halfway. You have to say yes and go outside and take a walk and join the class. You have to start the project, clean the space, send the message. You have to stop waiting for motivation and move anyway. Because happiness often follows action. It does not always come before it. And I have done this all my life. We think we need to feel better before we do things. But often we need to do things and then we feel better. That is one of the simplest but hardest truths that I've come to know. You may not feel like going for that walk, but go anyway. You may not feel like meeting the friend, but go anyway. You may not feel like trying the new thing, but try it anyway. You may not feel like cleaning the kitchen, folding laundry, going to the event, making a call, or putting yourself out there, but your future self is built by the things you do before you feel like doing them. And that is not about hustle culture. It's not about being productive every second. It's about proving to yourself that you are still in your own corner. You stop waiting to feel happy before you live. You start living in small ways, and happiness starts finding little places to land. And isn't that beautiful? So, how long do you give a new situation before deciding it's not right? This is tricky because there's no perfect answer. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about staying in something harmful. I'm not talking about ignoring your gut when something truly feels wrong. And I'm not talking about forcing yourself to endure disrespect, abuse, instability, cruelty, or anything that damages your well-being. When something is clearly unhealthy, you do not need a full calendar year to prove it. But when something is simply new, uncomfortable, unfamiliar, or not instantly fulfilling, I think we need to give it a real season of effort. Not a week of standing back with your arms crossed, not one awkward dinner, not one bad day, not one moment when you fell out of place and decided the whole thing was wrong. A real season. And it might mean 3 months, it might mean 6 months. It might mean giving yourself enough time to build a rhythm, meet people, understand the environment, and see whether your discomfort is a warning sign or just natural awkwardness of change. Because new things often feel wrong before they feel right. You got to think about new shoes. At first, they can feel stiff. You notice them. They're not molded to you yet. You might even think, why did I buy these? But after a while, they soften, they shape around you, they become comfy. Some situations are like that. Not all, but some. And if you leave everything the second it feels unfamiliar, you may never get to the part where it starts to fit. A new job might feel overwhelming, but you're still learning. A new town might feel lonely because you've not built community yet. A new relationship might feel scary because healthy love can feel unfamiliar if you are used to chaos. A new routine might feel boring because your nervous system is used to drama. A new life after loss might feel empty because you're still grieving the one you thought you would have had. And that does not always mean it is wrong. Sometimes it means you're in an adjustment period. The messy middle. The messy middle is where a lot of people quit. They do not quit because the thing is wrong. They quit because the beginning is uncomfortable. That's why I like the idea of giving it a season. A season gives you enough time to participate honestly, enough time to stop comparing everything to the past, enough time to build small routines, to see if people show up, to see if you can show up. It's enough time to whether to know the problem is the situation or whether you were never really there. And again, the key word is effort. You cannot give something 3 months of resentment and call that a fair chance. You cannot silently judge everyone and every opportunity and complain the entire time and say, see, it didn't work. That's not a trial, that's a setup. A fair chance looks like I tried, I participated, I asked questions, I accepted invitations, I created a routine, I looked for the good, I stayed honest about the bad. I did not force it, but I did not sabotage it either. And after that, if it still feels wrong, then maybe it is. But at least you will know you did not leave because you were afraid of discomfort. You left because you were honest. Now, I moved into this trailer in May. It was really cold. It was really damp. And I had a ton of work to do outside. It was basically a mud bog. Coming into the trailer, I just had boxes and bins everywhere, and trying to organize it was chaotic. And I finally got everything organized and things warmed up. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And, going outside, and I have a fridge outside, I have a fridge inside, and my plates outside, and I brought my utensils inside because I didn't want bugs getting on them. And I'm slowly realizing that I don't have the space that this woman requires to cook. And as well, I love my Monday to Thursday. But my weekends, I don't know, it's just not the same. I go and visit. I have some great friends here. I really do participate and try. But everybody's coupled. And I kind of feel like the third wheel. And that's okay. I don't mind being the third wheel. But I'm starting to come to realize that I can't do this all summer. While I love and I will keep my trailer, it's meant for the weekends and the occasional week. It is not meant for permanent lifestyle. And there's some ladies in here that I've met and hang around with that they're single and they go to Mexico and one goes to Texas and for the winter. And I'm just not in that position right now because I have to go to work. I have a business to run and I just can't do it. This is impossible. I didn't leave a very rich marriage. So, kudos to them because they can do that, but I can't. And it's really not my dream either. My dream is to build this magazine. And I need to be where the magazine is. So even being here and driving an hour and a half and, couch surfing at my daughter's and my friends, it's just not working. I need my space up there as well. So I think I've come to a conclusion of what I need to do come October. But again, it is only July. So I'm giving it a fair chance until the very end to see where I end up. So let's talk about the 4 things you may be doing that keep you stuck and unhappy. And again, this is not about blaming yourself. It's about getting your power back. Because if everything is everyone's fault, you have no power. But if there are things you can shift, even small things, then your life is not as stuck as it feels. So number 1 is romanticizing the past. And this is a big one. You keep looking back at the edited version. You keep comparing your current life to a chapter you've cleaned up in your mind. You forget what you prayed to survive. You forget how anxious you were. You forget the ways you betrayed yourself to keep things together. You forget the nights you felt alone. You forget the version of you that was quietly disappearing. And you start thinking the past was better because it's familiar. But familiar does not always mean good. Sometimes familiar means you knew how to survive there. And that's not the same as happiness. A happier version of yourself requires you to tell the truth about where you've been. Not to hate the past, not to erase it, not to pretend there were no good parts, but to see it clearly. Because you cannot build a new life while you're worshiping an old one that was breaking you. And number 2, waiting to feel motivated before you move. This one gets many of us. We need motivation first. We think one day we will wake up and want to exercise or want to organize our finances, want to meet new people, want to start the project, want to cook healthy meals, or want to leave the house or want to try again. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. And if you only move when you're feeling motivated, you will stay stuck longer than you need to. Action creates momentum. You do not need to change your whole life today. You do need one thing that interrupts a pattern, whether it's a walk or a phone call or a clean drawer. You can have one honest conversation, one event, one boundary, 1 hour away from the thing that drains you, one decision that tells your brain, we're not staying here forever. That's how you redirect energy. You take it from rumination and put it into movement. You take away from replaying and putting into rebuilding. You take it away from resentment and put it into responsibility. Not responsibility for what happened to you, responsibility for what happens next. And number 3, quietly quitting your own life. We hear the phrase quiet quitting mostly around work. People doing the bare minimum because they're done emotionally, even if they're physically there. But you can quietly quit your life too. You can quietly quit your relationship, your friendships, your health, your dreams, your community, your joy. You are still there technically, but you have stopped trying. You stopped adding anything. You stopped expecting anything. You stopped believing anything can surprise you. And that's a very painful place to be. Because from the outside, it can look like you're fine. You know, you're functioning, you're answering your emails, you're paying your bills, posting the occasional photo. You're doing what needs to be done. But inside, you're disengaged. You're not living, you're maintaining. And listen, sometimes maintenance is all we can do for a while. I get it. There are seasons where surviving is enough, where there are seasons where getting out of bed is a win. There are seasons where you do not have the capacity to reinvent anything. But at some point, if you want your life to be different, you have to come back. You have to re-enter your own life. Not all at once, but just enough to say, I am still here and I still get a say. And number 4 is protecting your disappointment. Sometimes we stay unhappy because unhappiness feels safer than hope. Hope requires vulnerability. Hope means you might try and fail. Hope means you might care and be let down. Hope means you might open the door and no one walks through. And hope means you might admit you want more. And admitting you want more can feel dangerous when life has already disappointed you. So instead, you protect your disappointment. You expect nothing. You mock the idea of getting things better, of things getting better. You can call people naive for being excited. You can tell people it probably won't work anyways. You can stay one step removed from everything. That way, if it fails, you can say, I knew it. But here's the thing. A life built around avoiding disappointment avoids joy. You cannot numb one side only. If you refuse to hope, you refuse to be surprised. If you refuse to care, you refuse connection. If you refuse to try, you also refuse possibility. And that's not protection. That is a prison with better branding. And I see so many people in that situation. And I was there once too. So how do you know if you're quietly quitting? Here are some signs. You stop making plans. Not because you're busy, not because you're resting, but because you have decided nothing is worth looking forward to. You stop taking care of your space, the house, the apartment, the office, the car, the bedroom, whatever it is, starts reflecting the part of you that is checked out. And you stop reaching out. You tell yourself that no one cares, but you also do not give anyone a chance to show up. You stop being curious. You don't ask questions. You do not explore. You do not wonder what is possible. You've already decided you know how everything will go. You stop contributing at work, in relationships, in friendships, in family, in your community. You're there, but your energy is not. You assume the worst before anything even happens. You've already decided it'll be disappointing. You become sarcastic about the things you secretly want. Sometimes sarcasm is just sadness trying not to look needy. You say, must be nice, and good for them. That would never happen for me. People like me do not get that. And underneath all of it is grief. Grief that you still want things, grief that you're tired of wanting things, grief that trying again feels exhausting. And if that's where you are, I want to say this clearly, you're not broken. You're probably tired or disappointed or maybe protecting yourself. You may have had seasons where every time you got your hopes up, life humbled you hard. I know that so well. So I understand why quietly quitting can feel safer. But safe and happy are not always the same things. It's about wanting to live fully enough that you can look back and know where not just protecting yourself from pain, you're also letting yourself experience wonder. And that's a trade. You can avoid disappointment by avoiding life, but you will also avoid the moments that make you feel worth it. So let's chat a little bit about luck, shall we? Because we all know those people who seem lucky. They meet the right person, they hear about the job, they stumble into an opportunity, they make the connection, they get invited, they find the thing. And it's easy to think, of course, things like that happen for them. But often what looks like luck is actually openness. Lucky people tend to put themselves where luck can find them. They talk to people, ask questions, try things. They say yes sometimes. They leave the house. They follow curiosity. They talk about what they're working on. They share ideas, take a class, go to the event. They apply even if they're not sure. They start before they feel ready. They're not always more talented. They're not always more deserving. They're not always more special. They're often just more available to possibility. And that really matters because when you're unhappy, your instinct can be to shrink your world. You do the opposite of what they do. And then, of course, nothing changes. Not because you're unlucky, because luck has no access point. It can't find you if you're hiding from your own life. That does not mean you need to become someone you're not. You do not need to be loud, extroverted, constantly networking or saying yes to everything. But you need to create openings. You need tiny openings count. Going for walks counts. Having conversation counts. Showing up counts. Asking questions counts. Letting someone know what you want counts because luck often enters through movement. You move and something shifts. You say yes and you meet someone. You go somewhere and you hear something. You try and you learn, you start, and the next step appears, and that's not magic, that's participation. And I think happy people understand that better than unhappy people. Happy people are not happy because nothing bad happens to them. They're happy because they keep creating chances for good things to happen too. They keep letting life surprise them. They make room for it. And they keep looking around. And they keep trying to catch little sparks. And that's something we can practice. You can become luckier by becoming more available to your life. Now, because this episode is about redirecting your energy for positive thinking, I want to be perfectly clear. Positive thinking is not pretending. It's not denying reality. It is not saying everything happens for a reason when something awful happens. I don't believe in that. It's not forcing yourself to be grateful for things that hurt you. It's not smiling through disrespect. It's not staying silent when something is wrong. It's not shaming yourself for being sad, angry, grieving, confused, or tired. That is not positive thinking. That's emotional bypassing. Real positive thinking is more grounded than that. It says, this is hard, but this is not the whole story. This hurt me, but it does not get to own me. This season is uncomfortable, but I can make one good choice today. And this is not how this is not how I imagined how it would turn out, but my life is not finished. I'm disappointed, but I'm not done. I'm grieving, but I'm still here. I'm scared, but I can move slowly. And that's the kind of positive thinking I believe in. Not this fake sunshine, not spiritual glitter, not pretending the storm is not real. More like lighting a candle in the middle of it and saying, I still get to decide what I do next. Because we have so much control of us. We have no control of anybody else. Redirecting your energy does not mean you'll never think about the past again. I think about the past often. It means the past no longer gets unlimited access to your attention. It means when your mind starts replaying old pain and you notice and ask, is this helping me heal or is this keeping me hooked? It means when you start spiraling about what someone did, you ask, what do I need right now? It means when you compare yourself to someone else, you ask, what is one thing I can do for my own life today? It means you stop feeding the thoughts that kept you trapped. Because thoughts are like plants. What you water grows. If you keep watering the resentment grows. If you keep watering abuse grows. If you keep watering fear grows. If you keep watering the fantasy will grow too. But if you start watering possibility even a little, something else begins to grow. And at first it may feel fake, and that is okay. You may feel fake. New thoughts can feel fake when old thoughts have had microphones for years. You do not have to fully believe the new story on day one. You just have to stop giving the old story every speaking role. So what is the first thing you need to do when you're unhappy and want your life to feel different? You need to tell the truth. Tell the truth. What am I actually unhappy about? What am I avoiding? What am I romanticizing? What am I tolerating? What am I blaming? What am I refusing to try? What am I scared will happen if I hope again? What part of me has quietly quit? What do I keep saying I want while doing nothing that would move me towards it? And that truth is really powerful because vague unhappiness can feel impossible to solve. When you say, I hate my life, your brain does not know what to do with that. It is too big, too heavy, and too dramatic. When you get specific, you get power back. Maybe you do not hate your life. Maybe you're lonely and bored, or maybe you're understimulated. Maybe you're grieving, or maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you need better boundaries. Maybe you need to move your body. Maybe you need to leave the house. And you name the real thing, you can work with it. So the next step is honesty. The next step is one action, not a full life makeover, one action. If you're lonely, reach out to one person that makes you feel safe. If you are bored, plan one thing. If you're overwhelmed, clear one surface. If you're grieving, let yourself feel it without building a permanent home there. If you're stuck in the past, write down the full truth, not just the pretty parts. If you're quietly quitting, choose one way to re-engage, just one. And that's how change starts. Not with becoming a whole new person overnight, with one honest action that proves you're no longer willing to abandon yourself. And it is hilarious. When I left my last relationship and I moved into this new place, this winter home before I moved in the trailer, I took up sourdough. And I was just passionate on getting it perfect. I got a few breads that were perfect, but I gotta tell you, I make the perfect bagel. And you know what? That journey, that time alone, time to find myself, time to rebuild the things that I knew I loved to do, it allowed me not to abandon myself. And I was alone a lot. It allowed me not to abandon myself, finding new things to do. I never hit not accept when a friend called because I knew I was alone. I acknowledged it, and I was quite comfortable alone. But you have to give it a chance. You got to try to become that new version of yourself because you can't control anyone around you to come back and create that old version. It's over. It's done. Funny story. In my past relationship, I used to love his rhubarb plant. So for, 3 or 4 years, I would cut the rhubarb. When my dad was alive, I'd bring it down to him and he'd make this rhubarb mash. And then once he passed away, I would cut the rhubarb. And last year I made quite a bit of rhubarb jam. So this spring I'd arrived at the trailer and I'm like, damn, I don't have any rhubarb this year. So off to the garden center I went and I bought myself a rhubarb plant. And I planted out behind my trailer. And people passed by and said, I didn't realize you had rhubarb. I'm like, well, it's not ready this year, but It's going to be plenty for next year, so please help yourself if you'd like it. And that's not abandoning myself. That's saying, you know what, I can do it myself. I can plant that rhubarb. I can have that rhubarb. Instead of ruminating over the fantasy of the relationship because of rhubarb, I've moved on. I've planted a new plant, and next year it's going to be very plentiful. And that's what it takes, the small things, so you don't abandon yourself. What would happen what would the happier version of you do? And I love this question. What would the happier version of me do? Not the perfect version, not the healed version, not the rich version, not the thinner version, not the version with the perfect relationship, perfect house, perfect bank account, or perfect skin, and perfect peace, the happier version. What would she do today? Would she go for a walk? Would she stop doom scrolling? Would she put on music while cleaning her kitchen? Would she say no? Would she say yes? Would she call a friend? Would she still remember that her life is happening? Would she stop comparing this chapter to the one she thought she would still be living? That's the question. Because we often think happiness is somewhere far away. You know, it's after the weight loss or the money comes in or the kids are settled or the grief passes. But your happiest self is not only waiting at the finish line. She's built in the tiny decisions you make now. Every time you redirect your energy, you're building her. Every time you choose not to spiral, you're building her. Every time you tell the truth, you're building her. Every time you stop romanticizing what hurt you, you're building her. Every time you participate in your life, you're building her. Every time you do something that makes you feel alive, you're building her. It's not about a life where nothing goes wrong. It feels like a evidence that you were here, evidence that you tried, evidence that you loved, evidence that you took the chance, evidence that you had moments, evidence that you did not let fear make every decision. And maybe that's what happiness is made of. It's not about perfection. It's not about a life where nothing goes wrong. It's just evidence. And maybe that is what happiness is made of. Not constant joy, not endless peace, not a perfect life, but evidence that you're living. When the past still pulls at you, and I know this all sounds good when we're talking about it, but what about when the past still pulls at you? Because it will. You can make all the decisions in the world and still have a random Tuesday where a memory knocks the wind out of you. You can still be doing better and still miss something. You can know the truth and still feel sad. You can be grateful for where you are and still grieve where you thought you'd be. Healing is not linear. I know everyone says that, but it's true. Some days you'll feel strong and clear. Other days you'll find yourself missing a version of life that you know was not fully honest. That does not mean you're going backward. It means you're human. I have to tell you, in 2019, my therapist said, one day you'll go through a full day and never think about your husband. And here it is, 2026. And every day I think about something that happened and I revert back. But I try to pull myself from it now. I don't play Inspector Gadget and try to figure it all out. I'm human. The goal is not to never look back. The goal is to stop moving back in. You can revisit a memory without building a house there. You can feel sadness without letting it become your identity. You can honor the past without handing it your future. And that's emotional maturity. Not, I never think about it, but I can think about it and still choose myself now. So when the past pulls out, you try this. Ask, what am I missing? Am I missing the person, or am I missing being chosen? For women, that's huge. Am I missing the house, or am I missing feeling settled? It's probably feeling settled. Am I missing the relationship, or am I missing the dream I attached to it? Am I missing that season, or am I missing the version of me who had not been hurt yet? Am I missing the truth, or am I missing the fantasy? And that question creates space. In that space, you get to choose. Maybe you choose to cry or journal or go for a walk. Maybe you'll call someone safe or make dinner. Maybe you'll do the next right thing. But you do not have to hand the whole day over to the past. You do not have to let one memory become a relapse into an old identity. You can say, yes, that mattered. Yes, that hurt. Yes, I missed parts of it. And no, I'm not going back there emotionally today. Bye. That is redirecting your energy, not denying it. Redirecting. There is something powerful about deciding to participate again. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be very quiet. I'm very quiet. There's no announcement or big reveal. No new me post. Just a decision inside yourself that says, I'm tired of watching my life from the outside. Tired of being alone. I'm tired of sitting and waiting. Maybe participating looks like getting dressed in something that makes you feel good. Maybe it looks like going to the market or singing in the car. Maybe it looks like starting a podcast like myself, or writing the article, starting a new business, going to dinner, taking yourself somewhere new. Maybe it looks like letting yourself laugh without feeling guilty, and that is a big one. Sometimes after hard seasons, joy can feel disloyal. You laugh and then suddenly remember what you had lost. You enjoy something, then feel guilty. You start to feel hope and then panic. But joy is not betrayal. Joy does not mean the hard things do not matter, and it doesn't mean that you forgot. It does not mean you're pretending. It means that there's still life in you and you're allowed to follow it. You're allowed to have good days. After terrible seasons, you're allowed to rebuild after loss. You're allowed to be excited again. You're allowed to want things. You're allowed to become someone who smiles more. You're allowed to stop making the pain the most interesting thing about you. That does not dishonor what happened. It honors the fact that you survived it. And maybe that's the whole point. You actually lived through it. Now you get to live beyond it. And I want to circle back to something important, because I do not want this episode to sound like just think positive and everything will be fine. No. Sometimes the situation really needs to change. Sometimes the job is toxic. Sometimes the relationship is over, or the friendship is draining. The environment is not healthy. The routine is crushing you. Sometimes the version of life you're living is too small for who you're becoming. And if that's true, redirecting your energy may mean making a plan to leave. But there's a difference between leaving from clarity and leaving from avoidance. Leaving from clarity sounds like, I have tried and I've been honest. I've communicated, I've participated, I've given this a fair chance. I've listened to my body, I looked at facts. I know this is no longer right for me. Leaving from avoidance sounds like, this is uncomfortable. This is new. This is not instantly fulfilling. This requires me to be vulnerable. This might challenge me. This might require effort. So I'm out. Only you know the difference. And if you're not sure, you got to slow down. I know my past partner and I, he was the avoidant, and I was the one just, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you. I can't watch you be abused. But do not make permanent decisions from a temporary emotional storm. You have to get quiet and tell the truth to yourself and look at patterns, not moods. A bad day is not a sign, and a repeated pattern is information. One awkward moment is not a sign. Constant self-abandonment is information. Discomfort is not always a sign to leave. Dread is information. Boredom is not always a sign to leave. Resentment that grows no matter what you try is information. And when you have that information, you can decide stay and show up differently or leave with honesty. And both can be very brave. The key is not to let fear make the decision, then call it wisdom. So let's try to build a life you can say yes to. The goal is not to build a life that looks impressive from the outside. The goal is to build a life you can say yes to. A life that feels like yours, a life with small moments that matter. A life where you're not constantly waiting for some future version before you allow yourself to feel alive again. And this is where people get stuck. They postpone happiness. As I said before, they'll postpone it until they lose weight or make more money or the business is stable and somebody loves me properly. That's a big one. I'll be happy when I move. I'll be happy when I prove them wrong. I'll be happy when this hard season is finally over. What if happiness is not a destination you arrive at? What if it's something you practice noticing? What if something small you create in small doses? What if it's less than about having a perfect life and more about being awake inside the life you have? It's not settling, it's presence. You can want more and still appreciate what is here. You can be ambitious and still enjoy the ordinary. You can be healing and still laugh. You can be grieving and still make plans. You can be rebuilding and still have beautiful moments, and that is living. Not waiting until everything is fixed. Living now while things are still unfinished. And there's one thing I take from this song that I'm going to introduce you is that the idea that life is meant to be experienced, not perfectly controlled. You're going to have bruises and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to love people who disappoint you. You're going to take chances that don't work, and you're going to have chapters that make no sense until later. You're going to have moments that you would have missed if you kept hiding. And those moments count. Because the moments you realize that you're okay, the moments you realize you're not who you were, the moment you realize the thing that once broke you is no longer running your life, and that's the good stuff, that's the evidence, that is living. So how do we redirect our energy? And let's try to make it practical. First, notice where it's going. Is your energy going to replaying conversations? Is it going to checking on people who are not checking on you? Is it going to proving your worth to someone who benefits from misunderstanding you? And is it going to resentment? Is it going to comparison? Is it going to fear? Or is it going to the fantasy version of the past? Do not shame yourself for it. Just notice it. This is one thing I did for many weeks while at my winter home. And then ask, what is this costing me? Because every thought has a cost. Every spiral has a cost. Every old story has a cost. Every time you give your attention to something that drains you, you're taking away attention away from something that could build you. And that does not mean you never process pain. Processing is healthy. But rumination is different. Processing moves you forward. Rumination keeps you circling the same drain. Processing asks, what did I learn? Rumination asks, why did this happen to me over and over without letting the answer change anything? Processing makes space for grief and then life. Rumination turns grief into identity. So when you notice yourself spiraling, redirect. Say, I'm not doing this today. Then go do something physical. Move your body, change rooms, wash your face. I've heard that Vicks on the wrist can, under the nose, cold water on the wrist can redirect your thought pattern. And actually, your brain, it's an interrupt. And you can always think your way out of overthinking. Just try to do something that works for you. I know the cold water on the wrist really works for me. And sometimes you have to move. Second, choose one thought that gives you more power. Not something fake or cheesy, something believable. Instead of everything is amazing, try, I can take one step. Instead of I'm totally healed, try, I'm learning. Instead of I never think about the past, try, the past can visit, but it cannot move back in. Instead of, I'm happy all the time, try, I'm making room for good things again. This is a positive thinking with a backbone. Third, do one thing you're happy yourself would thank you for. Just one. Because one action can change the tone of the day. And enough change days can change the tone of life. So this is where I'm going to bring in today's song. I Lived by OneRepublic. I'm not going to sit here and read every lyric, but I want to talk about the feeling of this song because it fits this episode so well. To me, this song isn't about a perfect life. It's not about avoiding heartbreak. It's not about avoiding getting through life untouched. It's not about making every right choice. It's about wanting to look back one day and know you were actually here. That you tried, you took chances, that you loved, you fell apart and still got back up, and that you did not let fear make every decision. That you did not let one person's betrayal become the final chapter of your story. And when you've lived through betrayal trauma, that really matters because betrayal trauma can make you shrink. It can make you want to protect yourself from everything. No more risk, no more trusting, no more hoping, no more being caught off guard. No more giving anyone the chance to disappoint you. And for a while, that makes sense. Your nervous system is just trying to protect you. But at some point, protection can become a prison. You may think you're keeping yourself safe, but you're really just keeping yourself from being surprised by life again. You're keeping yourself from connection, from joy and adventure and new memories, from the possibility that your life can still become something beautiful if you take a chance. And that is why this song hits differently when you've been through something like that changed you. Because it reminds you that the goal is not to get through life perfectly. The goal is to actually live it and to have stories and moments, to have proof that you came back to yourself. And maybe that's what's creating a happier version of yourself. What it really means. It's not becoming someone who never hurts. It's becoming someone who refuses to let hurt be the only thing that they carry. So if you're listening to this and you're in a place where life feels heavy, where you feel stuck, where you keep looking back, where you keep wondering whether it was you or the situation, I want you to start with this. Tell the truth. Tell the truth about the past, not the polished version, not the fantasy version, not the version where you only remember the good days and forget what they cost you. Tell the whole truth. Yeah, there were good moments and you may miss parts of it. You may still grieve the life you thought you were going to have. But also tell the truth about anxiety, the confusion, the loneliness, the abuse, the self-abandonment, the betrayal. The way your body knew something before your mind had proof. Those knots in your stomach. The version of yourself you had to become just to survive it. That truth matters because you cannot build a happier life on a lie you keep romanticizing. And after you tell the truth, do one more thing that brings you back to the present. Not your whole life, not a complete transformation, just one thing. Just go for a walk, clean the room, call a friend, say yes to an invitation, stop checking on the person who hurt you, and stop arguing with them in your head. Stop giving your best energy to a story that already took enough from you. And then ask yourself, what would the version of me who wants to live again do next? Not the perfect version of me, not the fully healed, not the version who has it all figured out, the version who wants to live again. That is where the song I Lived comes back in. Because one day, I do not want to look back and only see what broke me. I do not want betrayal to be the headline of my whole life. I don't want survival to be the only thing I even mastered. I do want memories and laughter and courage and stories. I want proof that I came back, and I want that for you too. Maybe the happier version of yourself is not waiting in some complete different life. Maybe she's waiting for you to stop giving all your energy to the past. Maybe she's waiting for you to stop confusing protection with peace, and maybe she's waiting for you to stop quietly quitting the life you're still standing in. Maybe she's waiting for you to look around and say, I am still here. I still get to say I'm not done living. Because betrayal may have changed you, but it does not get to finish you. So this week, do not ask yourself how to become a brand new person overnight. Ask yourself one better question. What is the one thing I can do that makes me feel like I'm living again? And this has been my life. This has been my story. This has been Life's a Blog. And remember, every story has a song, and every song has a story. And today's song is I Live by OneRepublic. And maybe that as a reminder, not that life has to be perfect, not that healing has to be pretty, but after everything you've been through, you still deserve to look back one day and say, I did not just survive it. I lived. Well, that's it for this week on Life's a Blog. I hope that you were able to take something from this conversation, and whether it stirred you up or made you look at your life differently, that's the point. Thank you for spending time with me. Follow Life's a Blog CA on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and join the conversation. Leave your thoughts and comments as I read them all and always respond. And if you're enjoying the podcast, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Music, and your favorite podcast platform so you'll never miss an episode. I'm Trina Stewart, and this is Life's a Blog. Till next time.